It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here with you on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. It's also on the online and mobile app. That's where you can go. You'll find, not just listen live, but also go back and find past episodes of our podcasts. First hour loading now, and we'll be there within seconds. Now it says it's available. So, yeah, if you missed anything, if you want to go back and listen again, feel free. And last hour was pretty much exclusively Utah State versus UNLV. They square off tonight in the Spectrum. Hopefully it's a full house, a full loud house to cheer on an old Big West rival and a team that beat the Aggies just 2 weeks ago. So, a team that poses certain risks and challenges to Utah State. How well do they respond and rebound from that loss? Aggies have looked good in their last two. UNLV has dropped two in a row. So will they allow themselves to lose three in a row? We'll find out. Pre-game coverage on our sister station, KVNU, will start at 7, and tip-off will be at 8. But we yesterday spent some time getting into the little more granular details about the standings in the Mountain West, at least specifically to the top 6 teams who still kind of have a path to the Mountain West title, at least in the top position going into the conference tournament. But today we thought we'd look at being at the midway point of the season. How would we grade the teams and how they're doing? And who is kind of this midway point or the front runners for the end of year awards that get handed out throughout the conference? Coach, player, sixth man, newcomer, things like that. So we'd love to invite your participation in this as well on the Young Power Sports text line, 435-339-0321. As some teams are officially at the halfway point, others by the end of this evening will be officially at the halfway point as well. So looking at the standings, and I think Jason and we discussed how we're going to go through these teams, and maybe it's just easiest to go top to bottom based on the standings as they are right now.
Yeah, because I had my article actually came out about 15 minutes ago published where I basically went through this exercise myself. So if you want to cheat and find out what my answers are, they're already on Cache Valley Daily. I don't know what Eric's are, so his will be a surprise to me. Of course, he read my article, so his opinion is probably tainted by my thoughts. So we'll see how he differs. But I went in order where I did a power ranking, so I ranked all the teams and threw a grade. But we'll go through a slightly different order just so that we can both be on the same page, as opposed to both trying to reference my power rankings.
Yeah, there you go. But if we go through the standings, New Mexico currently is the top team. I know both the Aggies and the Lobos only have one loss, but New Mexico has one more win, so they are in the top position by half a game. So we start off with the New Mexico Lobos, and grading their season so far, I have to give them an A. And that was a team that lost some really significant players off of their team last year. And there were some good players coming back that we knew of. But I'll be honest, I've been pleasantly surprised with what New Mexico has been able to do despite those losses, and how these other guys have stepped into those larger roles and filled those gaps actually quite nicely. So I got to give New Mexico an A for how they've started.
Yeah, that's the grade that I gave them. This is a team that was picked to finish second in the conference, and they're currently first. Or you could say, if you want to get technical about it, effectively tied for first. But yeah, they're a team that I felt had the best returning player. I've been really high on Donovan Dent for a while, especially watching him last year. I felt it was they were going to have a better backcourt by handing over the reins to Donovan Dent than they were, because last year he was kind of playing second or third fiddle to Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn, who were both pretty inefficient scorers. They take a lot of shots, but they were not all that efficient. And a lot more, at least with House, like his leadership and energy was kind of more beneficial to the team than his actual offense. He got the Lobos in trouble a few times with how kind of bad he was on offense at times. But Donovan Dent has been this efficiency machine and a fantastic point guard. And they finally kind of get to unleash the reins with him. And he's taken over this team and he's taking them to some pretty big heights. Not as high as it would have been had they kept JT Toppin. That was a massive loss. Like, JT Toppin was worse than losing both Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn combined. Like,
agreed.
That was pretty bad for them. But Donovan Dent has done well. Nelly Jr. Joseph has taken a step up. He's more of a scorer this year than he was last year. So, I've got to give New Mexico an A. It's not necessarily a surprise that they're up here, but you get credit for fulfilling your expectations because not a whole lot of teams have actually done that this year.
No. But next on the list, the Utah State Aggies at 8-1 in conference play so far. In their first half performance, if you're giving a midterm grade to the Aggies and how they've done so far in the Mountain West, this team deserves an A+. With they've exceeded expectations. They've done extra credit. They've stayed after to clean the chalkboard for the teacher. I don't know what else you want to do to give this team more credit than they deserve, but that's what Utah State is at with how they've performed in this first half. A team that a lot of questions how they would do with a new coach and some key guys leaving the team. They've definitely answered that bell and performed very, very well.
Eric's copying my work. I've also got them on an A+, and for pretty much the exact same reasons. Like, sure, they're, like I said, they're kind of effectively tied for first. They can get in a tie for first tonight if they win. But yeah, the Aggies were picked to finish sixth. They're, as I said, at the top of the standings. Like, nobody expected the Aggies to be here. I know Aggie fans are kind of now used to this whole dynamic of lose a coach, lose a bunch of players, still be at the top, but it's still not something that happens to most teams, so you still get a pretty good grade for actually pulling it off, because despite the fact that Utah State seems to be immune to head coaching turnover and its effects, that doesn't mean that it's still not kind of amazing.
Yeah, Colorado State is next in line in the standings, and since you're accusing me of stealing your work, Jason, I will let you go first on your grade for the Rams to this point in the season.
So I was almost looking at a lower grade, and then I kind of realized Colorado State was picked to finish right about where Utah State. I think they were picked to finish seventh, like below the Aggies. And even though, I've given Colorado State some guff for not like beating some of the better teams in conference play, losing most of the key games they've played in conference, and even having some struggles in non-conference play where they're not really one of the heavy hitters as far as their net, as far as maybe being an NCAA tournament team. I still have to give them some credit because they lost one of the all-time players in Mountain West history this past offseason, and a bunch of other guys. They suffered. Now, a lot of them graduated. They didn't lose a whole lot of guys to the transfer portal, but they lost a lot of really good players from a pretty dang good team last year. Remember, they were ranked 13th in the country at one point last year, and they lost virtually every contributor from that team. Dang near lost Nate Clifford because he was probing the NBA draft. Lucky they got him back and that he didn't transfer. He seems to be really sticking it through, Colorado native, sticking with the Rams. So, but he's come back. He's arguably the best player. He's definitely in my top three. You could make an argument for him to be player of the year if you really wanted to make that argument because he's just that caliber of player. So I ended up giving Colorado State a B+. Like, they're not one of the heavy hitters. They have some more warts on their schedule. But I have to give them a pretty solid positive grade overall, given what they've overcome to where they're at now at the midway point.
Yeah, I actually would give them an A-. This was a team that was 5-5 coming into conference play, but they've done very well. Well, hang on, that may not be totally accurate. I may have their season record a little bit off, but
I think it was like 6-5. I think
it was close to that.
You're pretty much close enough.
That was a team that looked like yes, they lost some key players, but they still had some good ones coming back, and it was still a pretty solid coach leading them. And the way they were looking in December, I was disappointed. But how they've played once they've been in conference play has been pretty good. They do have 2 losses, and those were not close losses. But I think compared to how they were going early part of their season and how they've adjusted and started to play a little bit better in conference play, I'm going to give the Rams an A- for how they've done so far at the midway point in conference. And then San Diego State is the team right behind the Rams in the standings right now. A lot of hype for the Aztecs. It seems like they deserve a lot of that hype usually, but this year they don't seem to be meeting that hype.
Yeah, so I've got them at a B-, like still a positive grade. They have the wins over Houston and Creighton. Mind you, that win over Houston is doing so much heavy lifting, it could win an Olympic weightlifting contest, like as far as their resume.
Yes.
Like it is doing so much heavy lifting. And so their underwhelming games against Air Force and San Jose are going to feel like a bit of a mark, but like they won those games and they blew out Nevada. So like they have mostly stayed on the positive end of things. It's not looking pretty, so I'm not going to give them a better grade for it, but they're at least still kind of on the positive trend, although obviously for San Diego State, it's not as good as they're used to, so I don't know, they might even grade lower, depending on how they feel. But I feel like San Diego State, I still have them 3rd in my power rankings. Like I still feel like this is one of the best teams in the conference. They're just not playing like it right now, so we're going to have to wait and see how they finish the season.
Yeah, San Diego State still has strong metrics in the net and some of the things that they've done. They do have some signature wins on their resume, but in conference play itself, it's been a little underwhelming. And so I'm with you. I give them a B-. I just think that this is a team that has more expectations of them. They're playing below those expectations, but still a dangerous team that can hurt you. But they should be doing better than they are. They're still a pretty good team when they want to be.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing. It's when they want to be.
Yes.
When they're playing bad teams, they're like, we'll just beat these guys. When they play good teams, they're up for anybody.
We've got a tie for the next place in the standings, and we'll give it to Boise State for the next team to be discussed. 5-4 in conference play. How would you grade the Broncos at their midway point in conference?
A D. Debated an F, to be honest. Boise State was the preseason favorite, had the preseason player of the year. They should be at the top of the standings. They just should be. There was a lot of hype saying, look at all this talent we have. We got Alvaro Cardenas, who was almost being way too overhyped. Like, he was good, but he's not that good. Tyson Degenhart, he's good, but I've always felt like he was a little overrated as far as being like a superstar. But then, like, their supporting cast beyond them, like those two have carried the team to a solid record overall, but they're playing a lot of guys, but none of those guys are really making an impact. Omar Stanley has just fallen off a cliff. Like, he was great last year. Like, if Darius Brown and Great Osborne hadn't been around, Stanley would have won Newcomer of the Year last year.
Yeah.
If he hadn't had 2 first-team All-Mountain West guys ahead of him. And Stanley was a all-conference preseason selection. Like, he was supposed to be good. But they've just all fallen off a cliff. And Boise State, they've played themselves out of an at-large bid. They've played themselves out of the regular season conference championship race. Despite the fact that they were basically the pick for both of those things out of the Mountain West. Like, Joe Lunardi, his way too early whatever that comes out in April, had Boise State as the auto bid. Like, they were supposed to be the team, and they're just not.
Yeah, I give them a D-, just mostly because of expectations before and expectations clearly not met. Yes, they've won 5 games in the conference, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. They do not look like they are on the same page, especially when they're on the road. There were a lot of expectations on this team, as you detailed, with a very experienced coach, a talented player, multiple talented players, but that roster maybe a little overhyped. Not a little. They were definitely overhyped.
Yeah, they just clearly are. They
definitively.
Just don't have...
But they did take the Aggies to the wire and very nearly could have beaten the Aggies. Since that loss, it's put them in a bit of a tailspin. There's still a chance for them to redeem themselves and still get back into being competitive in this league. But based on all the preseason hype surrounding Boise State, They've clearly not met that, and they're in a rough patch right now. And the team that they're tied with in the standings, that's UNLV, the team the Aggies face tonight. But what kind of a grade would you give the Rebels at this point?
I'm not sure I really know. I ended up going with the B- because it's like, I can't give them like a really good grade because they're not really overachieving in any aspect. They've snuck up on some teams and beat them, but then they've also had some just weird losses. So I don't know. You have a winning record. You snuck up on a few teams, so I'll throw you a positive grade. But like I said in my article, UNLV is just being UNLV right now. They're making everybody else's life miserable, and they're making their own life miserable at times. So I don't know. Maybe I should just give them a flat C. I don't know. It's just like they're a really tricky team to grade, and they were like this last year and the year before that. They're just being UNLV.
I give them a C+. They've won some games that they should win. They've won some games that they shouldn't win, but they've also lost games, and not just that they shouldn't lose, but also they've lost some games in pretty dramatic fashions, like wide margins. So it's been a real roller coaster for the Rebels so far. They have signature wins over Utah State, who was a top 25 team at the time. They beat San Diego State in Viejas. Now, Aztecs maybe aren't really that strong this year, but it's never easy to win in Viejas. So UNLV has done some pretty decent things, but they've also been embarrassed by some of the games that they've had. So it's hard to get really up or down on this team, but they've exceeded a little bit in that I never really expect much out of UNLV anymore. They always seem to be a team with a lot of hype, but never really perform well in the games that matter. Kind of a old Texas phrase: all hat, no cattle. But this is a team that has still pulled off a few wins against some good teams. So I give them a C+.
All right.
The next team in the standings for the Mountain West, as we grade midterms for the teams in the Mountain West Conference, the Wyoming Cowboys coming in at 4-6.
Yeah, I've got them actually at a pretty positive grade, given that they're not doing so well. But this is largely like based on expectations. They were expected to be at the bottom, but man, I've just loved what Sundance Wicks is doing out there. He's got these guys fighting hard. He's got one of the top scorers in the conference in Obi Agbim. They're playing big. They're playing physical. They're gonna trap another team that has to come up to Laramie. That's why if you're Utah State, you're almost dreading that trip to Wyoming, just because it can be a massive trap game. So, like what's going on there in Wyoming, I know the record doesn't really reflect that they're like a successful team. They have a losing record in conference. They barely have a winning record overall, but they're expected to be one of the worst teams, and they're at least decent.
So what was your grade?
Oh, B+. I don't think I said that out loud.
No, because I was listening to see how close it was to mine. I was giving them a B-. I like some of the things that they're doing and improving upon, but at the end of the day, still they're struggling to win some games. I think that it shows promise what Sundance Wicks is trying to accomplish in Laramie, but they've only got 4 wins in the conference. So I like their trajectory as a team, but at the end of the day, it's still not quite there. The biggest difference between why I give UNLV a C+ and Wyoming a B-, Wyoming deserves a better grade because I didn't expect anything out of the Cowboys, and I expected a little bit out of UNLV based on some of the players they have on their roster.
Yeah, we're grading based off expectations a lot here.
Yes. Next on the list, and maybe this goes more to that expectations, Nevada, 3-6 in conference play so far.
Yeah, I gave them a D-. That's the worst grade I think I gave to anybody, because they were supposed to be one of the top teams. I think they received a first place vote in the preseason poll. I think they were 3rd or 4th probably. I forget exactly where, but this is a team that had some returning up and comers, Trey Coleman, and I'm suddenly forgetting the other guy's name. They brought in Kobe Sanders, who is a highly regarded recruit, transfer.
Are you thinking of Davidson?
Yeah, Nick Davidson and Trey Coleman. It's like both of those guys were supposed to be good. They bring in a sharpshooter like Xavier Dussel, who can be a fantastic role player, a dangerous guy who's making the the run across the conference at this point. He played for 3 teams in the conference.
Conference
Yeah,
team.
apparently likes the Mountain West, but not the team he's currently on. But yeah, they were supposed to be a good team, and they're just like, I guess they're a good team, but they're not one of the contenders, not by a long shot. They have a 3-6 record. Like, they're like, Boise State at least has a winning record in conference, and it was at least a respectable team at this point. Nevada's at risk of going under 500 for the entire season after, at one point, I legit thought Nevada might be the best team in the conference based on kind of that early non-conference slate of games for everyone. Legit thought they were the best team in the conference for a minute. They just aren't. They choke in a lot of games. And again, they're 3-6 in conference play. I don't know if there's any more negative things I can say without just getting mean when talking about Nevada, because they've truly hit rock bottom.
I give Nevada a D. This is a team that similarly had a lot of high expectations on them, had a good non-conference schedule. They look good in the net, but they haven't really looked. I mean, it's hard to say they haven't looked good in the Mountain West because the record is what it is. But a number of those losses were single possession losses, and 2 points, 3 points, 5 points. 1 point in that stretch where they lost 4 in a row in the conference play. But then they turned around and they beat some teams. They beat them by good margins, but those are teams they should beat. Fresno, Air Force, San Jose. But this is a team that is wildly inconsistent and has a hard time closing out games. That a team that should have been a little bit more competitive in the Mountain West and has not been at 3-6. And then right behind them, San Jose State at 3-7.
I gave them a B, kind of similar thought to Wyoming. Feels like there's at least a sort of positive trajectory from a team that was expected to be at the bottom. They're still at the bottom. I have them 8th in my power rankings, and they're about that in the standings. So they've had a few of these just like so close games, like more than Wyoming or Air Force. Both those teams have had those kind of close games. San Jose State nearly knocking off San Diego State, really close to doing it. We're keeping pace with Utah State for a hot minute, but just not pulling it off there. And of course, they beat New Mexico, right?
They did by a point.
So there's some positive moments. So I give them a B, just to be positive, And but even though they have a pretty bad record, I think there's some positive things that they can try and build on. They're just in a tough spot to try. It's so hard to rebuild in the Mountain West because you're just getting you're flanked by so many good teams, but they're doing about as good as you could have expected them to do.
For San Jose State, I give them a C. This is a team that's been competitive in some games. Like they pushed the Aggies to the wire. They beat New Mexico, as you said. They took San Diego State to the wire as well. But in some of these games, they should have been able to close it out and win those games, and they didn't. And they've struggled mightily in others. And so it's a team that Miles, I think, is a pretty good coach, but he just can't really seem to get things going or at least hold on to players who look like they could have something. And so there's been some disappointment at San Jose, and the record kind of speaks for itself in what they've done or frankly haven't done so far this season.
Yeah.
Fresno State coming in at 1-9. What kind of grade would you give the Bulldogs?
Gave them a D+. I know they're kind of in a similar situation to Wyoming and San Jose, but while Fresno's had at least some games where they kind of push their opponents, the fact of the matter is their best win, if you look at the KenPom rankings, is over San Diego, who ranks 280th. That's their best win. Everybody else they've lost to. Everybody that's better than 280 in KenPom, I imagine the net's pretty similar. I didn't double check that. That's just what the list I have available. So they're just not a good team. So you're not going to get any credit for fighting hard and being close in a couple of games the way I was more positive with San Jose and Wyoming, even though they've lost a lot of those same games. At least they were close, and at least they won some of the games. San Jose and Wyoming are both around 500. Fresno's got 5 wins, and they're all against terrible teams.
I give Fresno State a D+. They only have 1 win in the conference, but it's not a totally failing grade because they have been competitive in a number of games. They've made life uncomfortable for quite a few Mountain West teams. That's the team just doesn't have a roster that's very good. And yes, it's a veteran coach. He's been around the block a bit, but he was elevated from the high school ranks. And I know he's got some college coaching experience, but
NBA experience.
But I just don't think that what's happening there is working in the Mountain West. So far at the midway point, I give Fresno State a D+. And then last, Air Force, 0-10, only 3 wins total on the year. What kind of grade do you give the Falcons?
I had a bit of pity on Air Force because I gave them a C-. I was like, they were expected to be bad. They are bad. So C-. I'm not going to give them a positive grade for how bad they are, but I had a bit of pity on them and gave them a C-.
See, I give them a D-. They are really dragging down the conference.
Oh, that's what it is. Eric's like doing the whole for the good of the conference,
Yes.
and he's mad at Air Force.
Their net ranking is terrible. They've very rarely found a way to win any game. Their game against San Diego State proving to be a little bit more of a fluke than anything else. But disappointing to see what's happening there at Air Force. I know it's traditionally kind of hard there, but that was a team that had some promising players a year ago, and they just weren't able to hold on to them.
They keep transferring.
Yes. So those are some of our midterm grades for teams throughout the Mountain West Conference, and love to get your grades, your midterm grades for conference teams in the Mountain West, how they've done at the halfway point. Do you agree or disagree with any of our grades that we've handed out? 435-339-0321. And since we're talking about the Mountain West, Gloria Navarez issued a statement today. Why? Why issue a statement of things that are already known? Unless there's smoke. And if there's smoke, there's probably fire.
I would like to make a statement that there is definitely not any Hello Kitty memorabilia to be found in my household. You definitely don't need to check or anything.
We'll discuss that next on the Full Court Press.
Many Aggie fans like to go to the game. Some fans love to yell at the TV, and all fans like to wear a shirt or a jacket with their favorite team's logo. Aggie fans find the best selection of USU logoed apparel at Locker 42. Find yourself an Aggie t-shirt for $10. Locker 42 features Aggie logoed hoodies, jackets, and golf shirts, and a hat wall with over 40 styles. Women's specific apparel, youth sizes for the junior Aggie, and toddler and infant Aggie items as well. Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans by Utah State fans, and proud to be part of Aggie Nation.
S.E. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. We offer a large selection of personalized service and extraordinary benefits with our integrity price guarantee. At Match Quality, you'll find our prices to be as low or lower than any store in the state. We consistently beat any 50 to 70% off sales, internet pricing, or so-called wholesale deals. In fact, we even price our diamonds at internet pricing. So you'll get S.E. Needham quality at internet prices. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. Where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Hi, Cache Valley. This is Dan Newmeyer at Blue Sky Restoration, formerly ARS. Do you know what to do if you are experiencing water flooding inside your home? First, make sure everyone is safe, turn off the water, and call Blue Sky. Do you know where the water shutoff is at in your home? If you don't, call Blue Sky and we'll send out a representative for free to help you find it and tag it so you can be prepared if an emergency arises. Remember Blue Sky, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
New and used snowmobile inventory is available at blowout prices right now at Young Power Sports in Logan. All remaining snowmobile inventory needs to go, and they'll beat or match any and all snowmobile prices. Price match guarantee that won't be beat. So go check them out. They're in South Logan, 1903 South, 800 West, Young Power Sports, and they sponsor our Full Court Press text lines. And if you want to weigh in, we always love to hear from you. 435-339-0321. Would you give any different grades to teams around the Mountain West now that we're at the midway point of the season? We really didn't get into postseason awards. And for the sake of time, because that first segment went a little long, Coach of the year, is there any question? It's Jared Calhoun.
Yeah, it's Jared Calhoun.
And that's a runaway. Anybody thinks differently is maybe there's some people in Albuquerque who might think a little bit differently.
I think even they would go with Jared Calhoun.
Player of the year, though.
That's going to be an interesting one right now. My favorite is Donovan Dent, but Utah State being a team at the top, their best player, you can debate whether it's Ian or Mason. I think most of the coaches would go with Ian, just senior leadership, higher scoring. He's got some clutch shots. Although Mason has 4 Player of the Week awards, so like both these guys got feathers in their caps. But one of Utah State's players is going to be up there. But Nick Clifford, kind of an underrated guy there. I know a lot of San Diego, running. I know there's been some people with San Diego State. They're trying to pump the Miles Bird like Player of the Year. It's like that's not going to happen.
No,
it's going to be Dent, Ian, or Clifford.
Yeah, newcomer of the year.
See, I don't know what the rules are for this. Like Obi Agbim, like this is his first year at Wyoming. At least I'm pretty sure. I was double checking because I almost could have sworn he was here last year. Maybe I was just hallucinating, but he's second leading scorer in the conference. He's like one of the top 3-point shooters in the country. I know he's on Wyoming, but like he's good. Alvaro Cardenas, like this is where I'm not sure about the rules. Like he was in the conference last year. So like, is he a newcomer? Like
he's not a conference newcomer, but he's a newcomer for Boise.
And like at one point I had Josh Aduje in my top 3s. I wasn't sure there, although I have Kobe Sanders as the number 3. So I have Agbim, Cardenas, and Sanders. I don't know the rules, but it doesn't matter anyway because I have somebody else who's a conference newcomer is my current favorite.
Sixth man of the year.
Carson Templin. Javen Buchanan is the leader in scoring, but you look at Templin, the advanced stats love him. He's 4th in the conference in scoring, is like top 2. He's either first or second in like every other one of the major stats, rebounds, steals, assists, blocks, all that. It really just should be Templin.
And Dexter O'Connell is making a bit of a run at that too.
Yeah, it's like it's Templin and Buchanan, and then there's like 5 guys that you could put as like your third favorite to be 6th man of the year. But it's Templin is the clear favorite. Buchanan is kind of there. And then there's a few other good candidates.
Speaking of the Mountain West, they
forgot freshman of the year.
Freshman of the year. Yeah, sorry.
Magoon Guath.
Yeah, that's trying to think if there would really be anybody else that would be in the running. I think
San Diego State has like 3 guys that you could almost put in the running. I put Jordy Barnes as my third because I was like, I don't know who else to put there. The advanced stats kind of like Jordy Barnes. And then, by the way, defensive player of the year.
Oh, yes.
That's where I think Miles Bird's going to see the shining because he's one of the better perimeter defenders. Nick Clifford is also really good on that defensive end. And Magoon Guath, his name comes up again. He's leading the conference, averaging 2.5 blocks a game. So, of course, he's going to be on the leaderboard.
Right. He'll be in the discussion. If you want more details on that or want to see how Jason put that together, you can go check out his report on CashValleyDaily.com. But speaking of the Mountain West, there's been these rumors that seem to percolate up again about what's the Pac-12 going to do. They need to get to one more football playing school to get to 8 to be recognized as a conference. The clock is ticking, and there were reports that athletic directors from the future Pac-12 schools were gathering earlier this week to discuss a variety of different things, media rights, scheduling, who they could target as other member schools to join them in the future Pac-12. And over the last few days, UNLV continues to be brought up as a potential target or as a school that may be still interested in flirting with the Pac-12. And Gloria Nevarez issues a statement today. And so why the need to issue a statement? Because she really didn't announce anything.
It seems she doth protest too much.
Basically, it's just, hey, there's a lot of speculation going around, but let me remind you of a few things. And she lists 4 points. First is that there's 7 member institutions are firmly committed to moving forward. And reminder, they signed this grant of rights agreement.
A memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, that's true. July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2032. The second point is that they're all working towards a future membership strategy that'll strengthen us through June 30th, 2026, which was interesting, and into the future. The third point is they continue to be engaged with media landscape, with media rights.
Same line I've been hearing for 2 years now.
Right. And then the fourth point is that they fully intend to protect their own, and they're confident in their legal position with multiple lawsuits that are going on between the Mountain West and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and some of the specific individual institutions, including Utah State.
Yeah, so it's, Gloria Navarro is trying to project strength. They're trying to fend off what seemed to be a pretty legitimate, run at some of their members. There was a lot of smoke being thrown about UNLV coming to the Pac-12. Maybe their commitment to the Mountain West isn't as die hard as many of the fans would make you think, the way they were defending the Mountain West as if it was going to be better than the Pac-12. But UNLV was bribed to go back to the Mountain West. That's why they're there.
Yes.
Fans may say differently, but the school got bribed to go back. And maybe UNLV is not as sure as the statement may make it seem like. How rock solid is the Mountain West case to win those lawsuits to make the Pac-12 pay them all those exit fees? Maybe they are. I mean, if I was the judge, I might side with the Mountain West. They were, signatures put on paper that they were going to pay these things, and the Pac-12 is trying to back out. For Utah State's sake, you'd actually hope that that's not the ruling, or that there's a settlement for less of the money. But that could end up incentivizing UNLV to, if they don't feel like they're going to get paid the bribe, they're not gonna stick around for what the bribe was for.
And they could really try to make a claim that, look, you made certain promises to us, and you're not keeping those promises.
Yeah, and that may be the legal loophole that they're going to try, is essentially breach of contract on the Mountain West's side. We've seen a lot of different legal tactics in all of this stuff, just about everything. Again, lawyers are becoming rich off the backs of the Pac-12 and Mountain West at this point.
Yes.
So it's going to be an interesting saga. Like, does UNLV end up leaving? I had been pretty committed to the thought that UNLV was just going to be an eventual member, but that, you get bribed for $25 million. That was going to keep them around until 2032, at which point they jump ship to a Pac-12 that will have established itself pretty well, and they'll welcome in UNLV as another member to just continue to bolster, because everyone wants to be in Las Vegas, so they'd bring them in. And hopefully that $25 million would have helped them establish themselves the top team in the Mountain West, so it was going to make a whole lot of sense. But maybe they jump ship earlier and try to play a role similar to Utah State, be the savior of the Pac-12 to make sure that they keep it alive and ensure its future.
Yeah, there were some reports. John Wilner, John Canzano, guys who write for the San Jose Mercury News and cover a lot of events in the Pac-12, were reporting earlier this week that there seemed to be some indication that the Pac-12 wasn't interested in just getting to 8, that they might actually like to get to 9 or maybe even 10 schools, which revived this discussion about UNLV and Nevada. There may be another school out of the Mountain West that could find a way out and come join the Pac-12. But Jason Kelly, he follows the UNLV Rebels, and he had interesting post earlier today saying that this release kind of really says two things. One, the UNLV to the Pac smoke is likely real. And 2, the Mountain West is trying to assert legal power with that memorandum of understanding. But there's also some, if you saw, there was some discussion about the future Pac-12 media deal could be in the neighborhood of $9 to $10 million, which dwarfs what the Mountain West currently has. And so they're leaking this information so that schools in the Mountain West can clearly see what they're missing out on in some of the decisions that they made in not following Utah State to the Pac-12.
Yeah, so it's a game that's now being played pretty heavily between these two sides. The Pac-12 trying to put the finishing touches on at least its short-term health, because they need the one more team. I know that the ideal for them is to get to, I think they'd like to get to 9 in the short term, but like the 8 has to be like the bare minimum. I think that's where they're looking at Texas State as like kind of this ultimate fallback of like, if nothing else works, we can bring in Texas State to essentially save the conference. So we know that the Pac-12 is not going to dissolve because they're going to eventually make it. The question is, are they going to be able to stick to their hope of like they're trying to get the upper class of the mid-major? those have been their targets. UNLV is one of those. Texas State is not. Memphis and Tulane kind of are. USF, like that's why those were their targets, because they were the upper class of the mid-majors in the G5. So ideally, they'd managed to get UNLV, at least in the short term. But picking up Nevada didn't make as much sense to me, because like that's one of the teams you were trying to avoid by just not like the whole point of not merging with them out. Like if you get Nevada, then they're saying, well, then at that point you might as well get New Mexico and Wyoming. Well, at that point, then why didn't you just
just reverse merge?
Or at best maybe at that point, like you needed 8 teams, I think.
Yeah.
To dissolve the conference, so you could pick 3 teams at the bottom that you didn't want. San Jose is probably the one that most people agree on. I don't know who the other 2 would be.
I'd imagine Nevada would be one of those.
Yeah,
3.
Nevada could be one. Wyoming maybe. It probably would be Wyoming. So like San Jose, Nevada, Wyoming, like you could leave them, and that way you take everyone. Like if you're going to ultimately take a Nevada, like you might as well have just done that. Take apart the Mountain West, dissolve the conference. Like you should have just done that from the beginning. You would have avoided the exit fees, the lawsuits. So if they end up going that route, it'll feel like a failure and a massive waste of time, because they could have avoided all this headache by just taking most of the Mountain West. But if they manage to pry only UNLV and then they bring in eventually a Memphis or a Tulane, like that'll still fulfill the mission of the Pac-12 trying to only take kind of that, again, the upper section of the mid-major and create basically a fringe power conference with the best of the G5 and mid-majors.
Yeah, so the drama continues, and I apologize, I didn't play our fancy
Yeah, I was
music.
thinking that while you were talking. I was like, Eric didn't play the bit.
Missed the opportunity there. But so there is smoke. And Gloria Nevarez felt compelled to issue a statement pointing out 4 key issues on this. So where there's smoke, there's fire. And it appears that it continues to be connected to UNLV as one of these schools that could be headed to the Pac-12.
We have on the text line, the Young Power Sports text line 9-5, saying, how many times have we heard this word salad with the conference and then someone bails on the conference? Check the box of a lot. I got tagged in a post that somebody quote tweeted the old Pac-12 like in 2023, something about how they were all committed, and it was I think after Colorado left to go back to the Big 12, and they're like, oh, we're all committed to sticking together, and well, we knew how that went.
Yeah.
So there could be some similarity there. But 9-5 also saying, could UNLV leave before the dates in this letter and not be a part of it? So like before. Because the grant of rights kicks in 2026. Yeah. That's July 1st, 2026. Could they leave before then? The answer is, unfortunately, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how all these contracts works. I wish I knew. Because like my assumption was they couldn't without some massive exit fee, probably an even bigger exit fee. That was kind of my assumption and why I started to take UNLV off the short-term list and more onto a long-term one. There might be, like, and it may be if UNLV says breach a contract or something, there may be a loophole. If they want to, they'll try a loophole. The Pac-12 is trying every loophole to get out of the exit fees. So if UNLV really wants to, maybe they'll try and pull it off. But maybe they should have done that like 8 months ago or whenever it was that Utah State did it.
Yeah. Their biggest mistake was not getting enough schools right out of the gate, out of the Mountain West or wherever, to say we are at 8 schools now as a conference. We are a conference, and just totally damage the Mountain West and then go pick off who they wanted from there.
Yeah, well, in UNLV...
They allowed too much time and money to head to the Mountain West for them to circle the wagons.
Well, and UNLV would do a bunch of damage by like saying no, but then trying to say yes later when it gets more complicated, because UNLV, them sticking in the Mountain West, helped keep the Mountain West afloat by letting them circle the wagons that... finally, once Utah State left, they were finally able to keep everyone together. UNLV was a big part of that, them and Air Force. If UNLV had jumped ship to the Mountain West, then we probably wouldn't be UNLV going to the Pac-12, excuse me. The Mountain West may or may not have survived. They would have been just completely on life support at that point. They might have had to go the FCS route to pick up some teams.
435-339-0321 if you want to chime in on the Young Power Sports text line. Yeah, a statement issued by the Mountain West over all these rumors that continue to swirl about conference expansion.
Don't look behind the curtain.
And realignment. Coming up next on the Full Court Press, the Utah Hockey Club. We know they've had a hard time figuring out the name of their franchise moving forward. They put it out to the public to have this big vote. They put a whole big, to-do about getting the public's input. Then they went to try to make it legal, and they've been rebuffed by a couple of different attempts. But apparently they've narrowed it down, and they're a lot closer than we think. So we'll discuss what their process is and the 3 names they've narrowed it down to next here on the Full Court Press.
Les Olson IT's structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low-voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Adams Wealth Advisors' entire team says, thank you, Cache Valley, for voting them the best financial planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Honesty and integrity is the hallmark of Adams Wealth Advisors. Let them earn your trust today.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see adamswealthadvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
From the land you love to the jobs you do.
This time of year, the farms, ranches, and fields might be quiet, but if you make your living off the land, the real work is just getting started. Now is the perfect time to prepare for the busy spring ahead. Cache Equipment can service or repair almost any tractor, make, or model. Don't wait until the fields are calling. Beat the spring rush. Visit Cache Equipment in Hyde Park and online at cacheequipment.com.
Cache Equipment's here to see you through.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Utah Hockey Club. Is that a name you like? Because it's one of the final 3. They've narrowed it to 3. They issued a release earlier today saying, we've discussed some of the challenges they've had with trademarks, with getting some of the names that the fans supposedly overwhelmingly were requesting with the Yeti. Looks like that wasn't going anywhere. And so they've apparently narrowed it down to 3 options. The future of the hockey franchise in Utah is either going to be known as Utah Hockey Club moving forward as a permanent option, Utah Mammoth, or Utah Wasatch.
So I'll say this to start with. My conspiracy theory that the Utah Hockey Club is Ryan Smith's favorite name and he won't let it die. That conspiracy theory is alive and well.
I think it's legitimate.
Yeah, he like for some reason he thinks it's cool because he likes this minimalist black and white, color aesthetic, all that. It's like it's his thing. He's rich, but he has terrible taste. Then he wants to force that on everyone else. Maybe I'm just projecting a little bit, but because I don't believe that was one of the favorites. I just don't believe it. I think they're just. For one, they lied in another part of this press release, so I don't believe them when they say Hockey Club was one of the more popular ones. I just straight up don't believe them.
I think it's just it's a name that's been there, so folks have just been like, at this point, we're just getting comfortable with that's what the name is.
I'm not.
And so some people are like, well, you've already given it a name, just stick with the name. It already has colors, just stick with those colors.
Yeah, it's a mistake.
It already has a logo, stick with the logo.
They're going to keep the color scheme. That's what it's going to be, and I'm fine with that. I like that blue color. Wish they had maybe a different accent color than just black and white, but the blue is really nice. It works really well. I'm okay with it. And they'll fit whatever logo into that color scheme. If it's Mammoth, they'll probably maybe add some brown to it, but mostly as an accent color, not like one of the dominant colors. They're not going to be walking around in brown jerseys. And as much as I love my Davis Darts, I don't want to see the Utah Mammoth running around in brown jerseys.
No, you look like you just walked in out of a snowstorm, just in a cool blue. But look, Utah Wasatch.
So
what is that? So is it just a mountain range?
That is, like, as I've read it, and some people are confused, but I think I 100% have this nailed down. That is their attempt to do Utah Yeti, but by a different name. Because in the release, it says, I got to find where it says it. It's on here somewhere.
Utah Hockey Club and Utah Mammoth were names included in the latest round of this top 6 names. Utah Wasatch is a new option.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's a new option created to, quote, honor the idea of a mythical snow creature with a Utah-centric approach inspired by the Wasatch mountain range.
Mythical snow creature,
yeah, and I looked this up, mind you. I looked it up on Wikipedia, but there is no such snow creature associated with the Wasatch Mountains. It's not in the etymology because that has to do with different languages of it being like a mountain pass and things like that. And there's also some Native American stuff. None of it has to do with the snow creature. This is 1,000%. If they're named the Utah Wasatch, it'll be a Yeti in the logo and the costume mascots. It's just literally Yeti, but by a different name. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so I just threw a quick poll out there as soon as I saw this and threw it up on Twitter. Right now, 80% of the votes are going for Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, that's going to be the fan vote, but I think the problem is Ryan Smith's Lex Hockey Club, that's his pet favorite. And Wasatch, given that it's the Yeti substitute, that's what the design crew who've been spending the last 3 months designing Yeti logos, that's what they like.
Right, because it was clearly not in the top 6. This is a new name that came out of nowhere.
And the fans, at this point, given Yeti was the previous popular answer, which further maybe helps Wasatch, but Mammoth, I think, is going to be the popular one now. So that's going to be a weird contrast where like 3 different groups of people each have their favorite. Question is, which one wins out?
So how will this be decided? Apparently, only fans who actually go to the games. So those who are true hockey fans can vote on this or share a vote or even see these what these logos would look like with these new teams.
This is a fantastic ticket selling scheme. Like, yes. I have to
even
appreciate the genius.
It's all, the sellout is still going on. They're selling out all their games. But starting tonight, through next Tuesday, February 4th, they have a long homestand here, 4 games in the next week or so, and only fans who show up at Delta Center can vote and see what the future logo looks like.
Are they charging full prices for those obstructed view seats now? I don't think they're that slimy, but I think, like I said, this is a ticket selling scheme along with them trying to get the fan vote in.
So that's what it's come down to. Which do you prefer? Utah Hockey Club as its permanent name, Utah Mammoth, which seems to be more of the fan favorite, or Utah Wasatch, which came out of nowhere but is a slight workaround to maintain the Utah Yeti.
It's the workaround for Yeti. And as much as they should just call it Wasatch as the team. I don't know. I feel like that Utah Wasatch, they're 2 terms that I feel like can be used in a team name, but not together. If that makes any sense. I like both terms as a team name, but not Utah Wasatch. It just feels weird.
How do you make that plural?
You don't have to. Jazz isn't plural.
You don't have to make it plural. Yeah, I guess that's not true.
There aren't too many names that aren't plural, but they do exist and they work. The Jazz, the Magic, RSL, there isn't a pluralization of that.
That's true. We got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press, but if you want to weigh in, the Young Power Sports text line is open, 435-339-0321.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. This one's for the guys. Girls, you can plug your ears for just a minute. Guys, Valentine's Day is a minute away. Here's the plan. Buy tickets to the dinner and a show at Lionheart Hall that we've got going on right now, and buy a mattress at My Mattress. I'll say that again. Buy tickets to the dinner and show at lionhearthall.com and have a brand new mattress from My Mattress delivered to your house for Valentine's Day. I gotcha. Only at My Mattress and lionhearthall.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
5763 has chimed in on the Young Power Sports text line. I think the new name should be the Utah Snow Cones.
There we go. That's the other workaround for Mammoth. And 5254 brought this up in the first hour. Of course, 5254. You said the choice was obvious, but you didn't say which. But I think I agree that the choice is obvious because I think he also means that Mammoth should be the name as well. Because hockey club, no. Wasatch, again, just weirdly just doesn't seem to roll off the tongue, and it would be weird. And it's, again, it's just a Yeti workaround. But yeah, we got some other things we got to get to real quick.
Yeah, quickly, just let you know about high school basketball in action tonight. Not only are the Aggies in play for both men's and women's basketball this evening, we'll see if Utah State women's basketball can win on the road at Air Force. But a couple of games of note. Skyview is at Bear River tonight, and excuse me, we'll have that here on the Fan later on this evening with Hurricane John Newbold on the call. Mountain Crest is hosting Green Canyon this evening. Only one place to hear that one, on 100.9 Light FM. Normally Mountain Crest games are on 107.7, but because of the women's basketball game, Utah State women playing on that station, to hear Mountain Crest and Green Canyon, it'll be exclusively on 100.9. And then last but not least, Ridgeline taking on Logan this evening, and that'll be on 104.5 The Ranch. Similar reasons, only on one station, because the KVNU will be tied up with the Utah State men's basketball game on KVNU.
Yeah, it was a close-ish game, at least at times, between the Grizzlies and the Riverhawks. The Grizzlies got their first win of region play. Reed Olson going beast mode against Mountain Crest. Of course, he's done that twice now because he's had combined 37 rebounds against the Mustangs.
Oh, wow.
But Ridgeline was actually able to do a pretty good job of defending him in their previous game at Logan. But I think it should be a good night overall in boys hoops.
And you can find out details about how to listen or even to watch these games. So if you're going to the Aggie game, but you kind of want to check in on some of these other high school games, you can do that at CacheValleyDaily.com. We'll have video streaming for all of these games for these Region 11 games taking place tonight at, again, CacheValleyDaily.com. But some other weird things going on in college basketball. Really weird thing in the Horizon League.
Yeah, that was something that there was a few days ago where there was a controversial call, and I was watching a clip of it, and it was one where a shooting foul was called in the final seconds. The buzzer actually went off while the shot was in the air, but there was a foul. So technically, there was time left, but they called a foul, and Oakland, they ended up losing the game because of this foul call. And I watched replay a bunch of times. There wasn't a foul. The Oakland coach got suspended for a game because he was probably yelling at the ref after the game. And so the Horizon League put out a statement saying, we're suspending the coach for a game. And they also mentioned this, said, in the release, We're getting rid of the referee, too, which surprised me a little bit. So
Very rare.
Some drama in the Horizon League.
That's going to do it for us tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Aggie basketball pregame coverage starting at 7.
You asked, begged, and even pleaded, and the heavens heard you. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM.